something just to let us know that you can hear me? Okay, great. I see responses. Excellent. Okay. So we will start the session now.
Yes, you can go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Great. So thank you again so much for joining us today. As you know, today's information session is about graduate studies, and we'll talk about the different programs that are available specifically at the master's and the PhD level, as well as admission requirements. Also, I just want to make sure that just want to say that again, thank you for joining, and I hope that everyone is safe and healthy during these difficult times that we're experiencing all around the world. So today's overview of the session, we'll begin with a quick overview of the city and the university. I'll talk to you a little bit about the University of Toronto as advantage, and then followed by advice on application and admission. So my name is Olga Paladi, and I work at the School of Graduate Studies in admissions. And again, I'll be telling you more about what sets the University of Toronto apart from other universities in Canada as well as around the world. I will then talk about the graduate admission requirements and how to apply. The university benefits in many ways from its location in Toronto, which is Canada's largest city. When U of T was founded in 1827, the city looked very different from what it looks like today. Much of what is now our downtown campus was farmland. And today, of course, this is one of the pictures of the downtown Toronto. And today, Toronto is North America's 4th largest city and the largest in Canada. The city itself has just under 3 million residents, and the Greater Toronto area has a population of nearly 6 million people. And students benefit from its urban setting, only steps away from campus. They can enjoy theater, opera, concerts, ballet, one of the world's leading film festivals, and food from any culture that you can imagine. Here's just another picture of downtown Toronto at night. And despite it being a very cosmopolitan, metropolitan, large city, it is one of the world's most livable cities. Toronto's green spaces link together, creating what has been described as a city in a forest. Its transit system ensures that most people living downtown do not require a car. So we have a really great subway system that students can use and transport from city to city, or from various areas of downtown. Toronto is also one of the most diverse cities, and it's a very multicultural population. And because of that, you can find a cultural community no matter where you're from. More than 50% of its residents are from visible minority populations, and the city recognizes its diversity and offers services and resources in up to 160 languages. As a result, our city is very tolerant and open-minded. We have a very low crime rate. In 2017, The Economist magazine ranked the world's major cities for safety, and Toronto was placed 4th, safer than Melbourne, Amsterdam, Hong Kong, or Stockholm. If you're considering living in Canada after graduation, Toronto is one of the best places for young people to start their careers. In 2015, The Economist ranked Toronto as one of the world's best economies for young people. The city has a strong, diversified economy, as being the headquarters for Canada's 5 largest banks, and is home to a thriving medical science industry alongside arts, environmental design, fashion, film, and business services. So let's take a look at how University of Toronto measures up to other universities in Canada and around the world. The University of Toronto is widely recognized as one of the world's great leading institutions for higher learning. On this chart here, you can see that according to the reputable and reliable rankings, U of T has been recognized as one of the top research institutions in the world and one of the very best public research universities. As you can see on the screen here, respected university rankings have placed University of Toronto consistently over the past few years among the world's top research institutions. U of T is ranked 3rd in the world for research output after Harvard and Stanford. So what does this mean? This means that our faculty members are world leaders in producing research that is used and referenced by other experts around the world. And there are 2 ways to measure a university's research productivity. One is by the number of publications by its faculty, while the other is how often those publications are cited. So if you look simply at how many papers U of T faculty publish, we rank 2nd, just behind Harvard University. And if you measure how often researchers refer to our publications, we rank 3rd, just behind Harvard and Stanford. So what does this mean? This means that our students, and if you become one of them, are working with some of the most widely respected researchers in the world. We recognize that going abroad is a huge investment for many of you. Toronto being the 4th largest city in North America, it's being very metropolitan, cosmopolitan. It is an expensive city to live in. And also studying at the University of Toronto can also be very expensive. However, you'll be glad to know that our U of T graduates are ranked 12th overall in finding work after graduation. And when it comes to public universities, we do even better. Our graduates are ranked 8th in the world when it comes to landing jobs after graduation, as you can see here in the screen in front of you. Our universities also benefit from its partnerships with 9 affiliated teaching hospitals. And the research that is carried out at those hospitals is driving advances in surgery, rehabilitation medicine, and pharmaceutical sciences. Our university is large and diverse, just as the city itself, and we have 3 campuses. In the west, University of Toronto Mississauga is surrounded by green space, as you can see in the first picture here. In the east, University of Toronto Scarborough sits on the edge of a beautiful ravine, and in the center of it all, our St. George campus is right downtown. And our students often ask us which campus they will be studying at. Well, that actually is determined by your program. The University of Toronto offers more than 280 graduate degree programs across 85 graduate departments. Just as important as that breadth of programs is our focus on interdisciplinary research. As faculty members, as well as students from separate programs, work on projects that cut across disciplines. So this is an example of one of our professors that are cross-appointed to more than one program and institute and department, Professor Molly Schwarzschild. She's cross-appointed across Department of Chemical Engineering and Applied Chemistry, Institute of Biomaterials and Biomedical Engineering, Department of Chemistry, as well as Institute of Medical Sciences. A university is only as good as its professors and only as good as its students. And University of Toronto has Canada's largest graduate school with over 18,000 graduate students. And more of 3,000 of those students are international. And the university is striving to increase that proportion to be even higher. In all disciplines, the University of Toronto is actively building partnerships with universities around the world to collaborate on various research projects and to share knowledge. The University of Toronto is equipped with superb research facilities across all disciplines, whether on campus, at remote sites, or in collaboration with international institutions. Our library system is the third largest in North America after Harvard and Yale. Our 43 libraries have more than 19.5 million physical holdings and over 5.8 million electronic holdings. As a result, our students have access to more and more up-to-date research publications than they would at any other school in Canada. Now let's talk about the various degree options. So I recognize that graduate studies is a serious commitment. It requires a lot of time, energy, and time away from family and friends. However, it also has immense benefits that far outweigh the difficulties or the challenges. Graduate school certainly is an investment in your future for life. You will have an opportunity to work with the best in your field of research, make connections with field experts, professionals, industries in your field who will further your progress or advancement or career aspirations. In addition, for specific careers, it may be essential for you to further your degree. For example, if you want to become a social worker or an architect or a psychologist, you need to pursue further studies. So let's dive in and let's talk a little bit about the different degree options. So master's degree at the professional level, such as Masters of Business Administration, Masters of Social Work, Masters of Engineering, Masters of Architecture. These degrees are considered professional master's degree. They generally take 1 to 3 years to complete. They're usually course-based, and they usually include an internship component or a practicum that gives you a hands-on experience in your field. So something that's important to note is that there's little to no funding that is available for professional graduate programs, which means that you will need to be prepared to self-fund your own program. Furthermore, many of these professional programs require you to have some professional experience as part of the admission requirements. So prior to applying to the program, you usually need to have a minimum of 1 to 3 years of experience in this field of study. And so as part of these master's degree professional programs, you will have an opportunity to network and connect with different colleagues, industry partners that will further your career. Now let's talk about master's degree at the research level, such as Masters of Arts, Masters of Science, Masters of Applied Science. So you will be required to have a very strong research background and during your undergraduate degrees, as well as a strong academic potential. And I will briefly mention the different kinds of averages that you're required to have for entry. It generally takes 1 to 3 years to complete. And Masters of Science and Masters of Applied Science students are usually funded by the program, the department, the supervisor, whereas Masters of Arts funding is a little bit less common. So you need to be prepared again to fund find your own funding for the program. And I will touch on on funding a little bit later in the presentation again. Last but not least, doctoral degree programs such as PhD and SJD, which is equivalent of the PhD in law, generally takes 4 to 5 years to complete. So as you can imagine, it is an in-depth, long-term research commitment. So you want to make sure that you are entering the program for the right reasons, as it takes a long time to complete the program. Proven research ability and high academic potential is something that will be looked at as when you're applying to the program. You also will need to have exceptional grades and strong research background. We do offer a few direct entry PhD programs, so where you can go from your bachelor's degree directly into PhD. However, these programs are competitive, and you need to be highly qualified with exceptional research experience in your undergraduate degree. And almost all of our doctoral students are funded, and the funding varies depending on the program, anywhere from 3 to 5 years. I want to touch briefly on collaborative specializations that are offered at U of T. We offer over 40 different collaborative specializations. So what are they? They provide additional multidisciplinary experience through cooperation between at least 2 or more graduate units and their graduate programs. It provides you with an opportunity to take courses outside of your discipline and it enriches your overall academic experience without extending your degree. So your degree you will still complete it in the same amount of time, but you will have an opportunity to take some courses that are outside of your discipline, which will overall enrich your academic experience. You must be admitted to a degree before admission to a collaborative specialization. You can apply for a collaborative specialization at the time that you're applying for admission to the degree program, or once you've been admitted, you can apply for it after. So as I mentioned, there's over 40 different collaborative specializations. The list is on our website, SGS website, which I hope that you've all had an opportunity to visit. And here in front of you, there's a slide that provides some examples. So an example of a collaborative specialization is addiction studies, and it is offered if you are taking a degree in community health, criminology, information, medical science, nursing, pharmaceutical sciences, or social work. You can do a collaborative specialization in addiction studies. So this is just one of the examples. Now let's talk a little bit about the admission tips. So remember that the University of Toronto is very decentralized, meaning that the decisions are made at the level of the individual graduate units. So departments, centers, institutes, it's not done at the School of Graduate Studies. It's done specifically at each individual graduate unit. This may be different other institutions that you're considering across Canada or in the US, but this is the situation here at the University of Toronto. So all the program details, including deadlines and admission requirements, vary by department, and it's very important to have a look on their website, which are very comprehensive and provide a lot of information about programs deadlines, programs duration, admission requirements, and also connect you to the web pages of the departments that you're interested in, and advisors, academic graduate administrators that you can connect with to inquire further information about their program and the specific admission requirements. So before you apply, you really want to make sure that you meet the admission requirements, because when you apply and submit your application, it costs money, minimum $120 per application. And yes, you can apply to more than one program at a time, but for each additional program, you will need to pay additional application fee of minimum $120. So you do want to make sure that you've read the admission requirements and you meet all of them. Start early. This is a really great time to begin your application or begin your research. And it takes months to, for example, even just to understand what it is, what does it take for me to gain admission to the university. Many of you are students outside of Canada. You're joining us from outside of Canada. You've completed studies and degrees that may not be Canadian degrees, so you're wondering how does that equate to your degree here in Canada. So all of that takes time. References take time. Finding a supervisor takes time, so you do want to make sure that you apply well in advance. So start early, give yourself plenty of time, and also give time to your referees. Make sure to contact them early, to ask them to become your referees, because it takes time for them to write letters of recommendation. Also, something to note is that although applications are made online through the School of Graduate Studies application site, all applications are assessed by the graduate unit offering the program you're applying to, which I've already mentioned to you. So any program-specific questions that you may have should be directed to the individual graduate unit. And you can find the information on our website, sgs.utoronto.ca/programs. So something that probably many of you have wondered are, what are the admission requirements to get into the University of Toronto? As I've alluded to earlier, University of Toronto is a reputable institution. It is consistently ranked among the top universities globally. So as you can imagine, admission is highly competitive, and we do get applicants from all across Canada and all across the world. So you do want to make sure that you prepare a very strong application and have strong letters of recommendation. So if you're applying to a master's program, you will be required to have at least a minimum of a mid-B average in your final year. If you are applying for admission to the master's degree for PhD, you need to have at least a B+ in your master's degree for admission to a PhD program. If you're applying for direct admission to the PhD, you need to have at least an A- in your final year of your undergraduate degree. So these are the minimum admission requirements, and many individual programs will have more stringent requirements and standards. So again, check directly with the program. In addition, to find out if your international degree meets U of T's School of Graduate Studies minimum requirements, you can refer to our online international equivalency tool, which is on sgs.utoronto.ca website under admissions. You will be able to find, if you click on your country of where you completed your degree, you'll be able to find how your degree translates to a Canadian degree and whether that meets the minimum requirements. If you're unsure about what does mid-B mean, or B- or A-, and how is my average calculated, again, do some research. And many of our programs, individual departments and graduate units on their website, they will have detailed information about admission requirements and how to calculate your average, or what does a B- mean. So don't hesitate to ask them, to email them, and inquire about that. In addition, you will be required to likely write an IELTS or a TOEFL exam or a test to meet your English language proficiency requirement. And again, that information can be found on our website, where you can find a list of acceptable tests by the university and the minimum required scores for each of those tests. And if you're wondering whether you need to write a GRE or a GMAT or any of the other tests, again, refer directly to the program, because again, each program sets their own specific requirements in addition to these minimum requirements that are listed here. In terms of the application process, you do, as I mentioned, need to confirm that you meet the minimum requirements. And meeting the minimum requirements by no means guarantees admission into the program. So many of our students have higher than the minimum requirements, those who apply. If your program requires a supervisor, a research supervisor, it's very important to reach out early to request their availability to become your supervisor. I mentioned this already, that the application process is online through the SGS website. For some programs, such as speech and language pathology and many of the business administration programs, such as MBA, they have their own application site process. But for the majority of the programs, graduate programs, you apply through the SGS online application portal, and you upload all the supporting documents, including your transcripts, your IELTS, your TOEFL scores, your GRE scores online. Although you upload the transcripts electronically, you may be asked by your graduate department that you're applying to submit official transcripts mailed directly from the institution directly to the University of Toronto. This is a very common question that we get is, how do I find a supervisor? So the big thing is really allow yourself time to find a suitable supervisor. You will be spending a significant amount of time with them, especially if you're a PhD student. As I mentioned, it takes anywhere from 3 to 5 years to complete your PhD. And supervisor relationship, I always say that it's a foundation of graduate education. You will be spending a lot of time with your supervisor who will be guiding your research. And so be careful selecting a supervisor that you can really relate to and who meets your supervisory approach, your philosophy. So you may request a Skype meeting with the potential supervisor to discuss a topic or topics of research, availability of funding, ask about their previous experience in supervision, how many students have they supervised in the past, what is their supervisory approach and philosophy. So all these questions are important. So make sure to ask as many questions as possible to ensure that they meet your requirements. So on this slide here, you can, this is an example of a list of faculty members at U of T in molecular genetics department. So you can, if you click under people, you will find the list with pictures. And if you click on, for example, let's zoom in and let's click on Professor Boone. So you can see his contact information, you can see the website, his research interests, his previous education, fields of interest, and at the bottom you can see whether he's accepting students or not. And at the moment, yes, he is accepting students. And you can click on the website that he's posted there, and if you click on the website, you will see that, for example, there are open positions and that you can email if you're interested. There's a couple of emails that you can contact the professor regarding an opportunity to work in their lab or them supervising your research. So this is how you go about finding a supervisor and availability of the supervisor. We also have detailed information about this listed on our website. So let's talk a little bit about funding. I won't go into too much detail, but I will briefly summarize the type of funding that is available depending on the program. So professional master's programs, for the most part, are not funded. So you do need to prepare to fund your own program through government scholarships and sponsorships, loans. or some other options that may be available to you. For MA programs, the funding is quite, it varies. It's quite variable depending on the program. So you do need to check directly with the department what kind of funding is available for your MA program. For a Masters of Science, Masters of Applied Science programs, the funding usually is there. So this includes a stipend. For example, you can do a research assistantship and also get, in addition, a grant scholarship to cover the costs. And so the costs will usually cover your tuition, and in addition, you'll be given approximately $15,000. For PhD and SJD programs, they are funded. And you may know that at the University of Toronto, tuition for PhD programs are the same for domestic and international students as of a couple years ago. Stipend is research assistantship or scholarship as teaching assistant, plus direct grant scholarship to cover the costs. That's something that you can expect. So usually, again, tuition and $15,000 to cover additional living expenses. And you will be expected to apply for external funds. That's something that you are strongly encouraged to do. And the funding is limited to up to 4 years, depending on the duration of the program. So I know that I touched on the funding fairly quickly, and I do want to make a point that more detailed information about that is available on our website and on the department's website. So let's talk a little bit about visiting students and joint supervision. You can apply as, if you're, for example, a current graduate student at a university, you can apply to become an international visiting graduate student. It is open to all international graduate students who are interested to conduct research at the University of Toronto. So you will not be able to take courses. However, you will be allowed to conduct research. In order to do that, you must be enrolled in a graduate degree program at your home university. And when you come, you do not need to pay for tuition because you will not be taking courses. However, you will be expected to pay for incidental fees, which are just include fees like athletic fees. It covers your health services and some of the student services fees. So access to libraries, athletic center, health and wellness, family care. So it's quite minimum in terms of what you will be paying as an international student, as a visiting international student, because you're not expected to pay for the tuition. So under IVGS, if a graduate research student from overseas, such as it may be you, identifies a faculty member at U of T who is in a position to supervise your research, they may make use of the university's facilities for a specified period of time. So typically it's 4 or 8 months. That is the common duration of an IVGS student. So you need to find a supervisor who is an expert in the appropriate field that you're interested in, and also who is willing to act as your supervisor. And if you have more questions about what are the requirements to become an IVGS student, the program, the fees, the application form, it can all be found on our website that is listed in front of you on this screen. So let's talk briefly about the joint educational placement, or JEP. So what is it? It's an opportunity for individual students to pursue their doctoral degree program under the joint supervision of faculty from U of T and a collaborating Canadian or international university. So what do you need? So you need to have two components. The first one is an existing or emerging collaboration between a supervisor at the University of Toronto and a faculty member at another institution. So if you're a current student doing a PhD studies and you know that your supervisor has a collaboration with a supervisor at the University of Toronto, that would work. And if you're interested in doing research and sharing, if there's common interests that are shared within the two supervisors and you're interested in pursuing this and you meet these two components, then you can consider applying for this program. Okay, for some reason the slide is not clicking. I'm not sure, okay. Okay, hopefully you can.
Yep, everything's.
Okay, sorry, there was some, we've encountered some technical difficulties, but I'm back online, it looks like. Okay, so continuing on with the joint educational placement for doctoral students. So some of the additional requirements that include is that you must be deemed admissible by both institutions, meaning that you need to apply and be admitted to both institutions. One institution will be designated as a lead institution, so it can be your institution in your home country, or it can be the institution, it could be University of Toronto. And the second institution will be designated as the collaborator. And you will receive a single doctoral degree from the lead institution. So if the University of Toronto is the lead institution, the parchment and the transcript will indicate that the degree has been awarded as a single degree under a joint placement arrangement with the other university. Now let's switch gears a little bit, and I do want to that we have a lot of support for our students, for our graduate students on our campuses. We offer more than 800 different campus clubs that our graduate students are actively involved in. We have a graduate house residence that you can apply for and reside as a graduate student. We also have many state-of-the-art athletic facilities that you can take advantage of as a graduate student. Something that I do want to stress out and point out to you is that we offer a graduate center for academic communication, where we have many specialized instructors and 3 committed full-time faculty members. So what can you expect from the Graduate Center for Academic Communication? There's a number of courses, workshops, and one-on-one writing advice that you can receive. You can attend workshops and courses on academic conversation, grant proposals. So if you have questions about how to write a grant proposal, or how to edit your thesis or your research papers, or if you want to improve oral presentations, all of this is offered through our Graduate Center for Academic Communication. And we also have Graduate Professional Skills Program, which many of our graduate students take advantage of. It offers programs and workshops for students that are looking to develop research competency, teaching, communication skills, personal management, and effectiveness. So if you do become a student with us, I encourage you to take advantage of this Graduate Professional Skills Program, which is available at no charge. And last but not least, what I do want to mention is that we truly appreciate the diversity that international students bring to our campuses. And we provide health services, career education, specialized services for our international students to ensure that they get a great experience out of their time at the university studying their program. We offer orientation events aimed at our international students, language practice, immigration advice for students who want to stay in Canada after they graduate. And we have the Center for International Experience that makes sure that all of our international students feel at home and are looked after. So this concludes our official presentation, our official session. And I will now open up for the forum for any questions that you may have. So feel free to type your questions in the chat box, and I will read them out, and I will try my best to answer many of the questions that you may have. So we have a question about a TOEFL score. So someone who did a semester at a university in Canada is wondering whether they need to write the TOEFL test to meet the English language proficiency. So there are a few exceptions. If you do need to have minimum of a degree completed at a university where English is recognized as the principal language of instruction in order to meet the English language proficiency requirements. So just by studying a semester as an exchange student in Canada will not meet that English language requirement. So you need to have a full degree completed, such as the bachelor's degree or master's degree, in order to meet the English language requirement. And I do want to again mention that it's the programs that decide whether the student's English language meets the required proficiency. So if you have any specific questions about that, I would encourage you to direct your questions to the graduate unit that you're applying to. Is there admission preference for U of T student? We look at all students equally, so it doesn't matter if the student was a previous student at the university. As I mentioned in the presentation, we get students from all over the world applying, and we consider all students as long as they meet our requirements and the programs, the specific graduate units requirements, admission requirements, they will be considered for admission. So we don't give any specific preference if the student was a previous U of T student. So if you're wondering about the application fee waivers, unfortunately, there are no refunds or tuition or application fee waivers. This is the policy of the School of Graduate Studies that we do not offer any fee waivers for the application fee, unfortunately, at this time. So we do have, and so if you do have any questions, any follow-up questions after the presentation, someone asked if there's an email address, so you can email us at sgs.international@utoronto.ca if you have any follow-up questions after the presentation. So I mentioned the funding, and someone is asking whether the funding mentioned applies to international students. Yes, it applies to international students. Do the transcripts need a certified official translation for the application process? So we will need to receive the transcript in the original language of instruction. And so if many of you, if you're coming from Spanish-speaking, Portuguese-speaking countries, it will likely be in the Portuguese, and the faculties and the departments will likely also require you to submit a translation, a certified translation of the transcript, in addition to the transcript in the original language of instruction. If you're wondering what kind of programs we offer, on our sgs.utoronto.ca under programs, you will find a list of all of our graduate programs. And you will notice that we have quick facts for each of the program, which lists a number of questions and answers those questions in regards to the application deadlines, the duration of the program, whether any special tests are required in addition to the transcript. So all of those questions, and in addition, all the list of different programs that you may be wondering that we offer is on that website. If you're wondering whether about meeting English language proficiency requirement, I know that at this time, many of the TOEFL centers and IELTS centers are closed. They may be offering opportunity for students to take online TOEFL and IELTS. So check directly with the provider whether that is an option. If not, check directly with the graduate program that you're interested in applying to see whether they will accept any other English certificate course that you took as a means of meeting the English proficiency requirement. If you have questions about funding, for example, for a visiting scholar, there may be some funding available through your supervisor. So check directly on our website about that, and in terms of the funding, and also once you have secured a supervisor, or if you're if you're looking to, if you're in the midst of finding a supervisor as an IBGS student, ask them about opportunities for funding and whether they will be able to fund you while you're a student, a visiting scholar. As a PhD student, someone is asking about funding. I know there's a lot of questions about funding and whether and how much you will be funded. It really depends on your program, and I would encourage you to visit your specific program that you're applying to. The website under funding and scholarships, they will likely mention what that will look like, and it all depends on your graduate unit, your department, the supervisors, and how much funding is available. So check in directly with them about that information. We do have information about awards and funding available on the SGS website. So I encourage you to do some research and look into the various opportunities to apply for scholarship through our sgs.u Toronto website under awards and scholarships. If there's a question about a supervisor, finding a supervisor, sometimes it may take you more than one email to get a response from a supervisor. Especially at this time, it is a very difficult time as everyone is working remotely right now from their home, and the universities is closed right now, so you may not get a response immediately from your from a potential supervisor that you're contacting. But don't be afraid to send them a reminder email and include all the don't write out a really long, lengthy email. Just look on, there's an information on our website about what kind of information should be included in when you're emailing a supervisor. It should be concise and provide just enough information, and make sure that you have demonstrated that you've done a significant amount of research about the professor that you're contacting, that you know about their research, and that you're familiar with their paper. Show that you've really done a lot of research about them, and that your research area aligns with what they're doing, and include what grades you have received in your last year. If you're applying for example, for a master's, include what your grades were like in your last year of your bachelor's degree. If you're applying for PhD, include your master's grades, as well as any research that you have done, any papers that you have published. I know that finding a supervisor can be a difficult task. However, if you start early, contact more than one supervisor, do your research, you should be successful. So considering the current situation with the COVID-19, for the current summer session in May, our students are taking courses remotely. We are not sure what the situation will be like in the fall of 2020. And so if that is you, if you're a student who have been admitted for the fall, we encourage you to contact your specific graduate unit for more information about the plans for September 2020. At the moment, as of now, we hope to and plan to start fall 2020 session as per normal, but the situation is changing day by day, so it is strongly encouraged that you check in directly with your program and check in. We have an FAQ page for students and community at U of T in regards to the developing situation on COVID-19 that you can refer to. And graduate units have specific information that they relate to their prospective students and current students about the situation as well. So you're encouraged to visit the pages and find out the information that's available online. There's no age limit on you applying as a graduate student to U of T. We do have a partnership with CONACYT, and we have an agreement with them. We have a number of CONACYT students here at the University of Toronto studying at the undergraduate level as well as the graduate level. So you can certainly apply for the scholarship, and and you can become a student here at U of T with the CONACYT scholarship. So let me just respond to a couple more questions before we finish. And if I didn't get to your question, please send us an email. So let me just. So in terms of when you take your language exam, like TOEFL or IELTS or KL, usually the graduate units will have deadlines to submit the application form, and then they will have another deadline for documents. And documents will include transcripts, English language proficiency exams, specialized aptitude tests such as GRE or GMAT. Some of the program's deadlines may be the same, so the deadline for submitting your application may be the same as the deadline to submit the documents. So you can certainly begin your application process before writing your TOEFL or your IELTS exam. The application for fall 2021 usually becomes available around October, November in some instances. So that's when you can typically access your application if you're applying for fall 2021 and begin the process of creating a profile and submitting the details. And do it as early as you can, because you will likely have many questions about the actual process of completing the application. And the big question that we get with students is references. So you provide details about your referees, including their email address, and then an email is sent directly to them about completing a form or submitting a reference on your behalf. And often students mention that they have a hard time reaching their referee, or their referee hasn't received a link to submit a reference. So that's why it's important to do this as early as possible and not delay, because any delays can cause you to miss the deadline. So if you are a serious applicant and you want your application to be successful, you're doing the right thing by having joined us this afternoon and listening to this presentation and preparing in advance for your application to U of T in the future. So let's just maybe conclude. I know it's 4 o'clock, so we will conclude the presentation for now. And I just want to again thank you so much for joining us, and I hope that you found the information session informative and that some of your questions have been answered in this presentation. And should any further questions arise, and I know that I didn't get to all of them, please do send us an email. And we hope to be in touch with you very, very soon. And we hope to also see you on our campuses in the very near future. So thanks again and take care.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Olga, again for your time. Um, and yeah, thank you, everyone, for being here. In any case you weren't able to listen to the presentation or attend the full presentation, remember it will be available on our YouTube channel. So make sure to check it out after and have a good evening. Thank you.